The Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show is sponsored by Accunet Mortgage, an equal housing lender, NMLS ID 255368, and Accunet Realty Advisors, which is a separate company from but still affiliated with Accunet Mortgage.
Putting a roof over your head without the headache. Get answers to all of your home buying questions. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
And our Sunday best to you. Good morning and welcome to the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show. I'm Steve Kettlear, along with Accunet Mortgage and Accunet Realty Advisors owner Brian Wickert and licensed Millennial loan consultant David Wickert. And as always, if you have a question, you can join us, either call in a question or text it in on the Accunet Mortgage talk and text line. That number is 414-799-1620. So I see that we are actually going to be invoking the rock-solid guarantee. First time ever.
Yes, it's first time ever. We've written over 1,000 rock-solid guaranteed pre-approval letters since we started the program, and I think it was June of 2015. And just to remind the audience that rock-solid guarantee promises that if we cannot make good on the letter that we provide to the buyer, we will write a check for $1,000 to the buyer, and we will also write a $1,000 check to the seller because they relied on our rock-solid guarantee letter.
Does anyone else do that in the mortgage business?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. Not to our knowledge, there's not a single other lender in the United States of America that backs up their pre-approval.
There's a French mortgage lender who might do this?
There might be a French or British or who knows. So the circumstances around our mistake involve a VA loan, Steve, which is always great to provide financing to veterans. And this is something we started offering the VA program again about 6 months ago. And the interesting thing about the VA qualification process is they do something really smart that no other loan program does. We run the normal debt-to-income ratio. What percentage of your gross monthly income are you using to make your new house payment, your car payment, your student loans, your credit cards, okay? But then they do another calculation called a residual income test. In other words, how much money do you have left over?
For groceries.
Right. And in that calculation, they look at, if you have children, the cost of childcare. That's a real expense that we ignore in the rest of our normal mortgage lending for, Fannie Mae loans. We don't take that into account. It also takes into account the cost of maintaining the home and the amount that you have to pay in income taxes. In other words, it's looking at take-home pay, which last time I checked is the money that people actually get to use to make their mortgage payment. And so the mistake that we made is we used the withholding for state and federal income for this veteran based on his paycheck. And it turns out that we can't do that. We have to use the withholding for state and federal that comes from a website, just in case the person's not withholding enough from their paycheck.
Sure.
And we were literally, we thought we were right on the money, and after we were told we had to use this website instead of the guy's actual withholding, we were off like by $400 a month. Too low. And so we couldn't do the gentleman's loan on a VA loan. Now, we were able, interestingly enough, to do it on an FHA loan because they don't have that residual income test. But, and I can't blame them, the payment on the FHA loan would have been $200 a month higher. And he would have had to come with about $5,900 more cash to closing. VA loan allows 0% down.
And no mortgage insurance.
No monthly mortgage insurance. That's right. You know what? And I take it back now. It's coming back to me. It was $152 a month difference in the monthly payment. And that was solely because FHA has a monthly mortgage insurance premium. That was the difference between the two payments. So he didn't really want to do that. And kind of wisely so. He was really pretty much stretching it. Even at the lower VA payment. So, we're going to be writing him a check for $1,000. And as soon as I get the information from the seller, we'll be writing them a check for $1,000 because they relied on our rock-solid pre-approval letter.
Yeah. So, though painful, we're not kidding.
That's right.
When it comes to the guarantee, because, A, we want people to win. on their offers, and that's what the Rock Solid is supposed to do. And if we can't deliver on that, we're sorry.
We're putting our money where our mouth is.
Yes.
And, this is going to allow and the buyer was really cool about it. He's like, you don't have to give me that money. I'm like, no, I am giving you this money because he really spent money on an appraisal and a home inspection.
Sure.
That's money down the tube, so we're reimbursing him for that essentially with that $1,000 guarantee.
So hopefully we'll go another 1,000 Rock Solid pre-approvals before we do number 2.
Before we do number 2. All right, when we come back from this first break, we're going to talk about condos because, just being in the mortgage business, every week we come up with new things. David and I were both involved in a transaction this last week where the condo project is not eligible for Fannie Mae. And we're going to tell you about that and the other common reasons that condos fall outside the purview of 30-year fixed-rate financing when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage Show, and you can call or text in a question or comment on the Accunet Mortgage talk and text line. That number is 414-799-1620.
Getting you into the home of your dreams. Here's more of the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Well, after today in Philly, the Brewers will finish off their longest road trip of the year in Washington against the NL East leading Nationals. What must the crew do to finish on a high note in the nation's capital? You can weigh in with Matt Pauley during Wisconsin Sports Weekend coming up at 5:35 tonight. It is 10:17. Brian Wickert and David Wickert are with us as we now focus in on condo sales and some common financing speed bumps or obstacles you can run into.
You got it. So, let's say you're a retiree and you're buying a condo. Why? Because you don't want to cut the lawn anymore. You don't want to fool with the maintenance. Or maybe you're a first-time home buyer. Yeah, I don't really feel comfortable with that, and I just want to have that all taken care of. Hey, a condo can be a great choice because it's all part of the homeowners association dues that you pay every month, right? Take care of everything. And the common human nature, the just normal state of the human mind is that, everything's okay, right? I mean, the association.
They're doing it right.
They're doing it right.
Yeah.
The association's doing its job. They're following all the rules that they need to make sure that I'm in good shape. Well, not always. And so we had a situation this past week with a buyer who was trying to put 5% down, a first-time home buyer. And here's the thing. When you put less than 10% down, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac get worried because that's riskier, right?
Yeah.
Than putting 20% down or even 10% down. And so then we get nosier as lenders. We have to do more diligence. We have to gather more paperwork and look at more things. And what tripped us up in this particular case, because we have to get the bylaws of the condo, that's the rule book, that frankly, whether you're putting 50% down or paying cash, you should read. Mm-hmm. And the offending article, number 12 in Roman numerals, in this particular condo association was that the sale of a unit shall be approved, and the association shall not waive its right of first refusal until the buyer of the unit has paid a fee in the sum of $750 to the association.
Stick them up.
They got a stick 'em up fee. But the other problem is the association has the right of first refusal to buy the unit. Okay? So this is offensive to Fannie Mae because they believe that hinders the marketability of every unit in this complex.
You have to get permission to sell your house.
That's right. Wow. And all right, so now let's back up a hot second and say, so what types of properties or condos get this kind of super close scrutiny? And the answer is it depends on three things. Whether or not the condo project is established or not. I'm going to give you the definition of that in a second, or quiz David. The amount of the down payment. So I've already established that 10% is the magic down payment number. And thirdly, the occupancy. All right, so I'm going to define it for you this way. You get the full review, the full latex glove. I'm snapping a latex glove. Snap condo review. If you have less than 10% down, or if it's not an established condo project, or if it's an investment property.
Or second home.
No, second home you can get a limited review. Yep, swear to God. Okay, so now let's quickly define what is an established condo project. An established condo project, David, can you name any one of the criteria?
The way that we talk about it as loan consultants is, are there still bulldozers out front of the condo?
Correct. The project has to be 100% complete, meaning all the units in the project have to be done and the common areas, and the project cannot be subject to additional phasing. So some condo projects are, hey, phase 1 is now open, and there's going to be 3 phases. And the reason Fannie Mae doesn't like that or wants to be extra careful is you, as a potential future seller of that property, are going to be competing with the developer when they open up phase 2 or phase 3. So that's why there's more scrutiny there. The other thing is that 90% of the units have to be conveyed to the owners, and the homeowners association has to have been turned over to the owners. So those are the 3 things that make for an established project. All right, when we come back, I'm going to lay out the most common pitfalls for established projects. Your normal, hey, it's already building, everybody owns it, the association's taken over, but what are still some of the most common pitfalls for financing that we run into every month when we come back?
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show.
Don't break the bank to get into a house. Back to the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
John McLaughlin has been a member of the Milwaukee Bucks from day one, first as a player and now as a broadcaster. Yet for all of his accomplishments in uniform and behind the mic, he still believes his greatest success is the Mac Fund. Don't miss Johnny Mac as the featured guest during this week's edition of WTMJ Conversations at 11 a.m. this morning. Brian Wickert is with us. David Wickert is with us. And we're now up to some of the most common pitfalls when it comes to trying to purchase or sell a condo.
Absolutely, and I'm going to jump on you here, Dad, because the big picture view is when you're buying a condo, you are joining a family, a condo family. That's right. Some families function well. Some families don't function well. And so whether Accunet is doing the diligence as part of financing, or as you said in the previous segment, you might want to do that diligence yourself to make sure there's not some extra crazy uncle in your new condo family. You got to be involved, because the health of the association is in your own best interest as the new home buyer, and also when we're the mortgage guy helping out, we care about the health as well.
I've been struggling to finish this article that I'm going to put out in our newsletter to real estate agents and financial advisors, and I'll turn it into a blog post as well. I've been struggling because it's kind of complicated. Condos add a layer of complication, and believe me, hey, most of them are just fine, right? The majority of condos are run well. There are no problems. But the problem is, as human beings, we assume that, and that's not always the case. So if you're buying in, you got to do the diligence. I say in my article, even if I were paying cash, I would want to make sure that my condo that I'm buying into runs itself in complete compliance with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac requirements, because when I go to sell, chances are that person who's going to buy is going to want the most popular loan type in America, the 30-year fixed rate, and that means you got to fly by the rule book of Fannie and Freddie. All right, so let's just drill down on the most common things that go wrong that we see. Yes, sir, David?
Can I guess what number 1 is?
Yeah.
Reserves.
No. Oh. Because in my mind, we only get into the budget, Steve, and looking at reserves if we have to do that full condo review, which is less than 10% down. So I would say that if we looked at all the condos we did, most of them have more than 10% down, so we never get nosy and look at the budget. Okay. But on every loan we do, we have to look at the insurance for the Master Association. And so here are some of the requirements and common pitfalls there. First of all, it has to have replacement coverage for 100% with inflation guard. I mean, wouldn't you want that?
I've had presidents of condo associations say, yeah, we don't want that.
Right.
Which is insanity to me. But.
Exactly. If you're buying into that family, that means you're getting into a dysfunctional family, because who wouldn't want replacement coverage?
Right. If it burns down, can we make a new one?
Here's another one that some associations skimp on. Building an ordinance or law endorsement. And what that means is if your condo building or unit burns to the ground or gets hit by a meteor, and it wasn't to current code, This is a little extra coverage. That means when they rebuild it, they're not rebuilding it to the old way. They're rebuilding it to current code. So that's an endorsement they're supposed to have. And again, some of us go, we don't want that. We want to save that $50 a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Bad. The other one is boiler and machinery equipment breakdown. And folks, this is right in the Fannie Mae manual.
You want hot water in February?
Yeah. That's right. That has to have a $2 million deductible. By the way, the maximum deductible on the overall insurance policy is 5% of the face value.
Okay.
So you can't have a huge deductible. And then the last kind of common one, this is if we are doing a full review, then we're also going to check and make sure that the association has fidelity coverage if the project has 20 or more units. And this is, again, wouldn't you want to have this no matter what? Because fidelity insurance protects the association in case the person guarding the bank account
absconds with the money.
Yes.
Yes.
And we have literally had condo associations go, we don't want to pay for that. And that coverage, Steve, costs like $400 a year. It's not expensive.
Yeah.
So I would say the most common trip up is when it comes to the insurance.
Yeah.
We are the guys that are pointing out you don't have the right insurance to be Fannie Mae compatible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the condo associations then go along with it. Other times they don't. Some of the other quick ones here before we're ready for the news. Commercial space exceeding 25%. I have this situation coming up with my good friend Jim Wozniak, who's helping one of his clients. He's a wealth manager at RBC. One of his clients wants to buy, like in the Wisconsin Dells area, a condo for a second home. And my first flag was, is the project, does it have any hotel-like features? You know, like a check-in desk, you know, things of that nature. That is the kiss of death. Deed restrictions, we always covered that. There are more. So if you're interested in what can kill a condo in financing, give us a call or look for that blog post coming out soon. When we come back after the news, we'll do a quick rate roundup. We're also going to talk about great ideas that we've seen recently in offers to purchase, but that don't work when it comes to getting a loan. When we come back.
Important home buying questions and answers you can count on. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Brian Wickert is with us. David Wickert is with us. We're now into the rate roundup segment of the show, and then we'll get into some interesting creative offers to purchase that don't really help out too much, though, in the actual financing department.
Amen. All right, so rates got a little bit better this week, which is excellent.
Crazy, but we'll take it.
All right, so I'm going to do an oddball example because it's still a great time to refinance. If you've got a second mortgage that's a home equity line of credit, that's a variable rate, and you want to put that together with your first because, the variable rate's not going to go lower. The marketplace, the futures market, is still betting that Janet Yellen is going to raise rates in December. It's about 50-50 odds. By the way, don't forget, she is up for renewal on her term February of 2018.
Coming right up.
So, maybe, I don't know, if she pot shots one at the December. Anyway, we're in the odd in-between before that next rate hike. So I'm going to say on a $250,000 house, if you have 20% equity, so up to 80%, we can combine that first and second. That's a cash-out refinance when we're pulling two together. So long as you escrow for your taxes, Accunet can deliver 4.125% with regular closing costs of $1,100, and the APR is 4.14.
Okay, and chances are that your interest rate on the home equity line of credit is prime plus a half, I'm going to guess, which is currently 4.75. If you call up and talk to one of our friendly Accunet loan consultants, we can calculate for you the weighted average interest rate that you're paying based on the loan size that you have on the home equity line and your first mortgage. What about on a 15-year? Did you happen to do that?
I just cooked this up. So just with 20% equity, we could deliver, and this is a $200,000 loan, 3.25% on the 15-year with just $800 in closing costs.
This is on a cash out?
No, this is a rate.
Regular, all right. So do that, and then I want to know the cash out.
So the APR on that is 3.28.
All right.
And on the cash out refinance, we could deliver 3.5% on the 15-year.
Yep.
APR is 3.52. That's with regular costs of $1,100.
All right. So it's about 0.25% higher. To combine a first and second mortgage on the 15-year, but then you're done in 15 years. Very powerful.
And so just the last thing on the refinance is, you are going to get to use all the comparable sales of your neighbors who have been selling their homes on limited inventory now, because an appraiser's going to get to reference those.
Right.
So
home values are up.
Home values are up. If you got a little bit more equity, you can maybe get rid of that PMI.
I think that's an underappreciated maneuver.
That could be like $100 savings if you get rid of that. I'm just
without even lowering your rate.
Right.
Just ditching the PMI because you bought 3, 4, 5 years ago and you've been paying PMI. With the appreciation in value and your pay down in the loan balance, we could help you get rid of that.
The other thing we get a lot of phone calls on as loan consultants is people who are looking, maybe you're not going to go buy your next home, but you want to improve the home that you're in.
Oh, yeah.
A very common call that we get is taking cash out to do a kitchen remodel or to do a bathroom or bedroom remodel and, amortizing that over the life of the loan. Well, hey, it's going to improve the value of the house.
I got no problem with that.
Not to mention, you're going to enjoy living in it during that time
sure.
as well. So that's, if you're looking for, if you don't want to spend your own cash.
Yeah, or you don't have it.
Yeah, or
your alternatives are get a home equity line of credit, which is a variable rate mortgage. The other one is get a fixed rate second mortgage. You'll be surprised at how high the rates are.
Yeah.
And so this is all an analysis of what do you have on your first mortgage right now. If you had 3 1/4, 30-year fixed rate, you were one of those lucky people that we locked in, those 6 people last summer right after Brexit.
Yeah.
We did a lot of people at 3.375 on a 30-year fixed.
Yeah.
Let's say you had $200,000 on that balance and you only needed to borrow $20,000 to do your kitchen remodel.
Mm-hmm.
Get a home equity line of credit.
Yes.
Okay? But if you're at 3.875 or you're at 4 1/4 on your current loan and you want to borrow $20,000, that's the kind of person we can really help. Let us do the heavy math calculation for you. We're good at that. We love Excel. All right. When we come back after this break, we're going to talk about those great ideas we've seen lately, and I've got a couple of good ones in terms of inclusions in offers to purchase, but they just don't work when it comes to getting a loan. When we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show. And if you have a question, you can either text it or call it in on the Accunet Mortgage talk and text line. That number's 414-799-1620.
Expert advice on buying a home. Here's more of the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
Well, Racine County has attracted several big businesses in recent years, and perhaps Foxconn could be next on the horizon. Gene Miller takes a closer look at what makes this region so attractive to businesses. That's at 7:20 tomorrow morning on Wisconsin's Morning News. Brian Wickert is with us, David Wickert is with us, and we're now focusing in on some creative ideas when it comes to an offer to purchase, but they don't really do much for helping you get a loan.
This one makes so much sense, but we couldn't do it. Here's the extra language. This is for the purchase of a single-family home. Let's say that, $400,000. And so this last contingency, so I'm like reviewing the offer. We always do that. We get the offer to purchase in. The loan consultants at Accunet, part of their job is review the contract and see if there's anything odd, plus get all the deadlines that we have to meet, like financing and appraisal. And this one said the purchase price of blah will include the remodeling work in the kitchen and first floor bedroom, and also the changes to the mudroom between the dining room and the family room. The work will begin after the closing date and be completed within 6 weeks of the closing date, per the drawings and specs and blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
And what the further circumstances on this were that the house was purchased by a remodeler, and it was in tough shape. They remodeled it. It's beautiful, but they just wanted a couple tweaks. We're not talking about a lot. This is like maybe $15,000 for these tweaks. And they just logically said, well, hey, if it appraises out for this all-in price, they can do the work later. That's not the way Fannie Mae thinks on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. They want the collateral, the house, to be in the condition that produces the value at the time of closing.
Right.
We're not allowed to finance future improvements. You can do that on an FHA loan. It's horrific. We don't do them. I forget what they're called. They're
203K loans.
203K. Okay. We do the 203B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is 203K. Well, it's a nightmare. But anyway, so that blew this one out of the water. Some other interesting things, though, as long as we're talking about this particular transaction, and I was all worried that I was going to upset the borrower when I called him.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I called him up and said, this feature in there, and I explained it to him. He goes, okay, no problem. We'll just lower the price. Like, whew, awesome.
Thank you.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Okay, but some other odd things about that particular transaction. The down payment was coming from a couple of accounts from one of the borrowers. One of them was titled in a trust set up by a grandmother 18 years ago. And so I noticed that. Remember, the devil is in the details.
Yeah.
And since it was in the trust, now it says that our borrower is the trustee, which is great, but we have to get a copy of the trust to prove that she can use the money and that she's the beneficiary and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little detail that is important to catch up front.
Mm-hmm.
Another one was that the co-borrower had a $57 collection. That was, and we have a what-if simulator, as David well knows, where we can say, well, what if that wasn't there?
Yeah.
That would pop up his score over 50 FICO points. Wow. And he tried to do it, but he didn't get it.
Because the collection agency wouldn't dance, or?
The magic thing is to say they will no longer report this account, and he thought that's what they agreed to do, but when we got the letter, it just said, we will now report this as a paid collection. A paid collection is just the same as an unpaid collection.
Yep.
In terms of the impact on your credit score. So we whiffed on that one. Some other things that we've seen, we had one that you were involved with, David, where the parents wrote the offer for cash, proved that they had the cash,
right,
and then they wrote the offer, Mr. and Mrs. Smith or their assigns. In other words, they could assign the contract, and their real intention was to get, this is in a hot area of Milwaukee, and they wanted to make sure they got the deal by writing a cash offer, but then they wanted to assign the contract to their son and have their son get a loan. That's what we're working on. We're finding out that we can't use that assigned contract. Great idea,
right?
But Fannie and Freddie don't want assigned contracts, so they're going to have to re-execute the contract. And people are worried, but I think it's going to all turn out okay. The better way to have done that, in retrospect, would have been to put all three people on title at the beginning, on the offer, the mom, dad, and the son, make it a cash offer, and then amend the parents off of the offer. That would have actually worked. But we weren't consulted ahead of time, so if you're thinking about doing that, folks, give me a call, and we can walk you through those details. What was the last one? Oh, same deal. They were including bar stools and a piece of furniture and something else in the offer. Again, for the 1,000th time, real estate agents, when you're financing, it's okay to include washers, dryers, refrigerators, stoves, microwaves, iron curtains, water softeners. Those are all allowed to be included. Not because it makes sense, just by tradition. If you throw in a lawnmower, a boat, furniture, television, the bedroom set, you cannot put that in the offer to purchase. That has to go in a bill of sale, because the theory is Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac don't want to finance chattel. They only want to finance real estate. Yes, I know, I just conflicted myself because a refrigerator's chattel too, but for whatever reason we allow that.
It's just harder to move, I guess.
I don't think so. I think it's just tradition, or it really goes with the house. So that's the other one we see all the time. All right, when we come back, we're going to give you an update on the case that we had last week about whether or not the person should present the denial letter on or before the financial contingency, or just wait and see what happened. I got the conclusion on that story. And I've got a story about somebody who hasn't filed their taxes yet, trying to refinance, and how we got snaked. I'll give you those two stories when we come back.
Right here on the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show on 620 WTMJ.
Helping you find a place to call home. This is the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show with Brian Wickert on 620 WTMJ.
And David Wickert as well. So now we have the conclusion to whether or not you drop the denial letter into the equation in a rather unique situation from last weekend.
Yeah, and the good news is that they were able to negotiate, and I was just texting back and forth with the senior loan consultant who was involved in that during the show today, Sandy Okrushinsky, star Star, longtime great team member, really knows her stuff, cares a ton, like all of our loan consultants do. But she's very compassionate. And so I don't know the answer to this question, whether they like waived the denial letter in front of them or just kind of threatened it or how they handled it. But they were able to successfully negotiate a 24-hour extension to the financing contingency. And you remember the issue here was we were asking the appraiser for another comp when there were none. And we were able to get that cleared as we had anticipated. Yeah. All the underwriter wanted was for the appraiser to reiterate, there ain't no more stinking comps.
Please say it a second time.
Could you say it again?
Yeah.
And so we were able to deliver the commitment letter on Monday, even though the financing contingency originally was on Sunday, and that loan is now closing this coming Tuesday.
La-ti-da.
So a happy ending there. David?
I was just going to, Sandy does this, you do this, especially on your cash offer example. The loan consultant at Accunet will pick up the phone and say, I'm happy to, talk to your buyer's agent and even the listing agent to, and I don't want to overstep my bounds, but on your cash offer, hey, Mr. Seller, we need to re-execute the contract so that Junior can get the mortgage.
Right.
It doesn't mean the cash offer's going away.
It's still a cash offer.
They've already proven to you that they've got the funds to do it. Mm-hmm. We just want to make sure that we're going to take this first crack at getting the mortgage done. And, hey, by the way, it's looking pretty good.
No, and I said, by the way, in my email to everybody on this topic this morning,
yeah,
we'll give them the approval letter.
Oh.
Because we're ready. The only thing that we need is a re-executed offer.
Got it.
So in addition to being a cash offer, we can provide them with the approval letter that says, and see, this guy's already approved for the financing that I'd really like to get.
Right.
Go ahead. You have anything else on that?
No, I think that's what makes us different is that as mortgage pastors, we will pick up the phone and try to communicate in words that people understand how everything's going to be okay. We just need to dance this certain way in order to get the thumbs up from underwriting.
With the permission of the buyer's agent on the VA loan that we weren't able to do, mm-hmm. I talked to the listing agent. And the listing agent then conferenced in the actual seller.
Oh.
And I explained live before both of them how the mistake that we made relative to calculating that buyer's residual income. Mm-hmm. And what we were doing to try to resolve it. And also explained if we can't resolve it, we're going to be cutting you, Mr. Seller, a check for $1,000. Mm-hmm. So we're not afraid to help.
Right.
Again, we always have to get permission from our buyer because they are our client, and then they're represented by the buyer's agent in most cases. So if those parties want us to, we are willing to get on the phone and help explain it to the other side, which listing agents really appreciate, I have to say.
For sure.
Right? Because then they're not in.
Who doesn't want to be communicated to? I mean,
clearly,
good or bad.
Honestly. Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. The other thing we talked about is I was trying to help a repeat customer refinance. And at this time of year, it's perfectly legal to not have filed your taxes. Mm-hmm. Okay? And in this case, we always need the proof that they filed their extension form. Okay? And in this case, the guy was self-employed, so he had to go through the process of giving us profit and loss statements for 2016 and year-to-date 2017. That was an additional factor. But regardless, the thing that tripped us up in the end is when we got his extension form, it showed that he owed $20,000 of federal income tax. Okay. And guess what the requirement would be on the refinance?
Pay it.
Show us proof that that income tax bill was paid, even though it was estimated.
Yeah.
And why is that, David? Any guesses? Because if you don't pay it,
well, then there's a lien on the property that supersedes the mortgage we just put on there.
It could become a lien, correct, against the property. And in this particular case, the borrower was already bringing cash in because he was trying to consolidate an adjustable rate. Guess what? Home equity line of credit. But the appraisal didn't come in quite high enough. So he was already scraping together money to come to the closing with about $40,000.
Plus the other 20 to
He did not have the extra 20. Okay. So that was not going to work out. But that's just a cautionary tale that when we have to pay taxes or we know that it's got to be paid prior to closing. All right, here's the summary for this week, Steve. Rates are awesome. And we're kind of in this cool, nice little late summer window or middle summer window where it's a great time to be out there buying, pumping out a lot of rock solid pre-approvals, but even better, a great time to check out refinancing. All you got to do is click on the blue button at Accunet.com to find out how much you can save. That is ACCUNET.com. See you next week. The preceding was a paid program. Advice and opinions expressed during the Accunet Mortgage and Realty Show are solely that of the hosts or guests of Accunet Mortgage and Accunet Realty Advisors and not WTMJ Radio or Scripps Media Incorporated.